Hi, I'm Margaret Holzmann. Let's take a look at my new book, Margaret Holzmann's Iconic Knit Blankets and More. The Camp-Along blanket celebrates going off the grid and leaving it all behind. There's a camper block or caravan for our UK friends and a tree block. I've made how-to videos for every step. You'll make the blocks, then sew them together into a strip, and then knit those strips together. Celebrate your next adventure, whether it's on the road or on the couch, by knitting this blanket in the large size that's shown here or the small size. There's also a really cute pillow to go with it. Copycats lets you enjoy lots of cat company without the bother of shedding fur, excessive meowing, and litter box maintenance. Reach into your stash and knit these vertical strips of felines. This is a modular knit with no sewing, and the strips are knitted together. This fun-to-knit project of tessellating cats has large and small blanket versions, with the large shown here. There's also a pillow of 8 cats to go with it, or you can make the pillow to try it out before committing to the full blanket. Flower Show celebrates the peace movement, the anti-war protests where marchers carried flowers rather than weapons. This kind of curved design is normally reserved for crocheters only. In the knitted flower block, we use one color at a time and then decreases, short rows, and a 3-needle bind-off to create these flower shapes. I love to teach this as a class because knitters are so thrilled when a flower, seemingly by magic, emerges from their needles. There are so many beautiful colorations of this stash-busting blanket that have been posted in my Facebook groups. There's also a video tutorial that shows how to make the flower. Staying with our 1960s theme, here's the Lovebug blanket that represents love, downsizing, and simplicity, although not necessarily simple knitting. I originally developed this design to showcase all the techniques I use in one single block. In addition to intarsia, shaping, 3-needle bind-off, and short rows, there's lots more fun to be had when working the small hearts and flowers that are sewn on. Like most of my patterns, this is a real stash buster and a satisfying project, whether you make the blanket or the pillow. More Than a Feline has calico cats in honor of my own COVID cat, Penny. She turned up one day to join our daughters who were home from university and studying in the backyard. She quickly gained entrance to the house and our hearts, and now we feel like we're living with all 57 cats in this blanket. This blanket is knit in strips that are sewn together, and it uses a little bit of easy intarsia and some embroidery for the facial features. The blanket name is a play on a favorite song name from the group Boston. Oceanfront celebrates my and many other people's favorite place, which is the ocean. Our beach is in Oxnard, California because we can drive there from Los Angeles, and it's beautiful and crowd-free. I bet you have a favorite beach near you too. This blanket is worked in 2 big sections that are sewn together. There's a little of everything technique-wise. And there's a very pretty pillow version of this design too. Row Robin is my first bird blanket, but I think there will be more. These happily paired birds are worked in blocks that are sewn together into strips, and then the strips are knitted together. You can work the birds from your stash yarn and then place them against a white or a dark background. The name for the blanket suggested itself because as I was designing this pattern, I was also working on a group quilt project called a Row Robin, and one of the quilters was named Robin too. Safe at Home was published just as the US went into the first COVID lockdown in March 2020. This book's version of the pattern has new content, including a pillow version, a table runner, and directions for working adjacent sky pieces as one unit. There is a complete public how-to video for making a house on this YouTube channel. Check out my Facebook groups, Geometric Knit Blankets or Safe at Home, for inspiration for your own blanket. As with all my patterns, there's a coloring page on my website, thenitwit.org, so you can experiment with your own colors before knitting your houses. Safe in the City followed the Safe at Home blanket. My daughter Natalie was living at a distance from us in New York City, and I was thinking a lot about her safety. She's moved back to Los Angeles now, so I can worry about her close-up. This blanket is worked in strips that are sewn together. The sky is worked as one large piece with an intarsia moon and stars. It would be fun to see the sky worked with the sun and clouds, so maybe you'll want to make that version. Something Fishy features 140 fish that can't agree on which way to swim. This blanket is based on a popular tessellation, so it may look familiar to you. A tessellating design is one where repeats of one or several shapes fit together with no gaps. I love to use them in my designs. This blanket is worked in horizontal strips that are sewn together. One of the great things about garter stitch knitting is that even a bad sewing job won't detract much from the final product. This pattern has a pillow option and a knitted short sleeve top too. Stay Positive is named after our dear departed Labrador Retriever, Ginny. It is a very easy blanket, unlike the raising of Ginny. She was kind of a nightmare combination of mouthiness, unbridled enthusiasm, and lack of self-control until about age 5. We were lucky that she lived another 10 and a half years, so we had time to enjoy what became the best and most beloved pet. She had the most positive energy of any creature I have ever known and loved all humans and other dogs too. So this blanket is dedicated to her. It is worked in blocks that are sewn together. Upside Dog is another dog-themed pattern with a tessellating dog head. Some of the dogs are upside right and others are upside down, hence the name. This blanket is worked in blocks that are sewn together. The eye patch is done in intarsia. The eyeballs and the noses are knitted separately and sewn on, giving it kind of a 3D effect. The mouth is embroidered or can be worked with a crochet hook. Now we've come to the last 5 blankets, which are all holiday designs. This is Candy Canes. Isn't it sweet? It is worked in blocks that are sewn together, and it also uses some short rows and a 3-needle bind-off. Christmas Tree Lot is done in greens, reds, and white. It reminds me of wrapping paper. It's worked in strips that are sewn together, and it has a wee little bit of intarsia. Festive Forest features pine and spruce trees, but these are the ones that are staying in the forest. There are 4 different styles of tree striping that add variety. The blanket is worked in strips that are sewn together. In another universe where ice crystals are octagons instead of hexagons, we would find the Snowflakes featured on this blanket. This blanket is worked in blocks that are sewn together, and it uses a bit of intarsia and a little crochet chain stitching. Tree of Lights is just a lot of mitered squares, slightly elongated and worked in different colors. I used Cascade 220 Superwash. It's my go-to worsted weight yarn when I want particular colors, as I did for the greens and the beiges of this blanket. This is a mostly modular knit with a very small amount of sewing. Thank you for joining me for this look at my book. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications bell. I'll see you soon.